Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
This is teZa.
And this is Carter.
And we are sitting by the most beautiful river in the world for us right now at this moment.
The Presumpscot River in Maine, in Windham, Maine.
And there's not a soul around except a little flock of transparent insects that are about 15 feet from us, playing around on the surface of the still water. And I saw a duck fly by a few seconds ago. Oh, there's a wasp nest over there.
Yep.
Life is everywhere, under the water and in the sky. So we're sitting here talking to you.
That's a pretty tough-looking wasp nest over there.
Oh.
But they live here, so we have left them alone.
We do not want to walk into the wasp nest by accident, no. So we're sitting here talking to you because it's a fun thing to do something different, to take our podcast into nature, which we did a lot 5 years ago when we started ZLORD podcast.
Yep.
5 years, Carter.
Yep.
I've learned a lot. How about you?
Yeah, in fact, I think it started right here, didn't it?
Yes, it started here at this, not the
Maine.
river, but the place where we're staying, which is an old house from the 18th century. And that's where it started, the ZLORD podcast, in June of 2019. So what are we going to talk about today? I was going to ask you, what are we going to... You talk about what we're going to
Patience.
talk about.
And patience, which is a function, or perseverance is a function of patience. But it's not the word perseverance.
Well, actually, the word that we were working on this week in association with patience is endurance.
Endurance. That's
But,
right.
you know, perseverance is a big part of patience, but endurance is... It's a little different, isn't it? So if we look at the fact that when a person practices patience, they actually are becoming better at practicing endurance, or, you know, having endurance. And, you know, being willing to go for something that is worthwhile working for. As we all know who are watching the Olympics in these last couple of weeks, everybody who aspires to be an athlete, yourself included, Carter, because you're an athlete supreme of anybody I've ever met. Why don't we start there? Like your story of being an athlete. I mean, the patience that you had to perform and the endurance that came into as sort of your reward, right?
Yeah, the main thing is that you just have to practice a lot. Like all these people, like Walter Payton and Jerry Rice and all those guys.
Who are those guys?
They're football players.
I don't know anybody.
They're exceptional.
I don't know those guys.
And they both, and everybody else that was ever very successful, with a handful of exceptions, just a very small handful. Most everybody is an extremely hard and disciplined worker. So you just have to do all the running and all the preparation, and then you can be successful. But if you haven't done that, you can't. It doesn't manifest itself in being very good. And endurance is part of it, and patience is part of it, because when you're working out and running your sprints, for instance, in the summertime, where you're day after day after day, you're running 10 50s, and you don't want to do it, and it's hot, and you just don't want to do it. But if you keep the guys that keep doing it are the ones that end up faster and stronger and in better shape, and then when the season comes around, they're better. But it takes a lot of patience to do that. And it takes a lot of endurance to do that. And if you just don't have it, you just don't get to that next level. All the guys that are in the pros have done that, every one of them.
So now if we look at it, applying patience to another aspect of being human, it changes a little bit. Like, I'm thinking myself, like, once upon a time I was not a very happy person. I had a lot of problems, emotional problems. I guess they would call it mental health problems these days, but when I was a younger person, I just thought I was crazy. I really didn't want to be that way. I really wanted to be what I would call today either serene or content, or at least being able to accept the way things are. But I didn't have the patience for it. And so I did a lot of drugs, I did a lot of drinking, I did a lot of acting out. And so that's another arena in life where people should be encouraged. I wish somebody had encouraged me in those days to practice patience, or gave me a few tools, like how do I practice patience if I'm trying to be a better, happier, not so discontent person. Like you say, as an athlete, for instance, you were given the advice to run sprints, right? That was advice, and that was guidance. But for me, I had no guidance. And so I ended up acting out.
I think patience...
Until I got some guidance.
I think patience, one way of patience is getting out of yourself. One of the main things in life that we're all trying to do here is be ourselves and be individual and make good choices, but also spend as much time as possible not thinking about ourselves and not being involved in our own little things, but thinking about the other guy and thinking about how to be serving other people, because that's the ultimate golden rule, and that's the ultimate exercise, I think, in this life is putting others in front of yourself. And it's not necessarily fun, it's not necessarily easy, but that is the prevailing wisdom in the scriptures, is to put other people in front of yourself. And that would be the same thing with what this mainstream church sermon guy was talking about today. He opened the service with very unusual. This is kind of a mainstream Episcopal scene that we go to
on Zoom.
On Zoom.
Or
and
YouTube.
He started
YouTube.
saying that we have, how exactly was it he put it, that there's a radio station.
Non-stop thinking. Our station is NST. WNST, non-stop thinking, which is everyone, as he said, everyone here is involved in it, including myself. And so what we want to do is now try to shut that radio off and get quiet and listen to this nice message that's coming to us in the worship service. Well, especially if the NST is all about you're no good, life sucks, what am I doing here, everything's rotten. That's the kind of thinking that I had going in my NST channel.
Yeah, and it's all, again, it's self-involved. It's all about us, because it's all about our stuff.
Well, so I want to get into the things that we can share to help people get out of that. Not so much, yes, we all have it. It's not good. Now let's identify some ways to get out of those habits, because they're habits. So, are you asking me, Carter?
I'm asking you. How would one do something like that?
Well,
Tez?
Fortunately for me, when I crashed and burned with my addiction story and ended up in the 12 steps of recovery, I was given a lot of tools, but it wasn't until I really started working with a spiritual teacher that I was given the best tool of all for me to deal with that NST, non-stop thinking, that in my case was very negative, very self-destructive, self-loathing, and a lot of kind of weird stories that I would make up in my mind. And that tool specifically is mantra repetition. You could call it affirmation repetition, but something that's so simple, like even something like I am good, or I am happy, or we are one, or God is love, or whatever rings your bell. You have to find it for yourself. But I was given a gift, which was the mantra already packaged up and saying, okay, use this one. And in my case, it was an ancient yogic one that people have been using for millennia. And it works for me. It continues to work for me to this day. I talk about it a lot in our years of podcasting. So I trained my mind to repeat this mantra, this positive affirmation. And to this day, I go to sleep with it. I wake up to it. And when my mind is not busy doing something interesting, like writing a book or painting a painting or making a souffle, I cling to this mantra. because it works for me. It's my life savior.
It stills the mind. It stills you from going off into some, we all just run away. Our minds
are you asking me what the mantra is, Carter?
Unruly minds. What is your mantra, teZa?
I have to prompt Carter to be a conversant. He's not really good at this going back and forth business. My mantra it's a very, very well-known ancient Sanskrit yogic mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. And it basically translates Om, which is the universal sound for the divine, for God, for the higher power. Nama, which means I honor. It's a verb form of namaste. And then Shivaya means of Shiva, which is the word for consciousness. Shiva represents consciousness. So consciousness, the fact that we are all conscious, is one and the same as the divine, the sacred. So when I repeat Om Namah Shivaya, I'm basically saying, in so many words, I am one with God. We are all one with God. We are all consciousness. Everything is God. Everything is consciousness. And that works for me. How about you, Carter? What do you use to still that NST?
I use the Jesus prayer.
Which is
an old prayer that was... It came from it's been a mystical kind of a Christian thing that was at least from the 1800s, but it's probably all the way back to the 1st century, which is, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, which is a kind of a curious, it's not intuitively obvious that would be helpful and that you would use that and that it wouldn't just be seen as weakness, but it works. And if my experience is that it stills my mind and it helps me just calm down, and I get a lot of kind of blissful feelings over that if I just run it long enough for
don't you think
45 minutes
the
or an hour.
The gist of it being able to work is that you have a really deep and profound, and I would say personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
I do.
You do. Whereas if somebody didn't, that mantra
might not
work so well. Like for me, it doesn't work so well because I have a deep and profound relationship with the cosmos. And to me, it just works better. I can relate to it better. That consciousness is even the cosmos.
Yeah, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya is from that discipline. Then there's ones like Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. I think that's Tibetan, right? And then there's Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is a Buddhist one. And there's numerous old
ways
of these mantras that have been around for a long time, thousands of years, that people have been using, and they're tried and true in their work, because the reality of the unruly mind has been a permanent human condition and obstacle for all humans since the beginning of time, I think. It's just something we have to learn to get control of, is that unruly mind.
Or I look at it in a different way. Instead of the mind being the enemy, I've made it a point to make my mind my friend. And by substituting a beautiful mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, oh look, kayakers, longboarders, they're coming down the river. It's the first time I've seen them.
First time we've seen anybody here for 3 weeks.
We've been coming down here for 3 weeks.
Lucky we're not swimming in the nude, buck naked out there right now, because a lot of half the time we are.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to just continue our talking until they go by. We'll be right back. Okay, the kayaker and a canoer and the longboarder are gone downriver.
Yeah, downriver. But so this unruly mind thing, it was interesting to hear it in such a mainstream situation where these things aren't usually talked about very much. But what was it again? That
non-stop thinking, WNST.
Which is absolutely the same thing as the monkey mind that's been referred to for eons in the Eastern mystical traditions, and it's something that all the Eckhart Tolle people are. Eckhart Tolle's got his whole world built around being present. If you can be present and on the now, you can stop that monkey mind or that nonstop thinking, and then you can just be. And if you can just be, then you can escape your ego, and you can escape the thinking about yourself and being selfish and self-involved, which is a gigantic exercise in this life, as no doubt everybody that's listening to this thing knows.
Yeah, but a lot of people have never found how to still the mind. Right, so it's useful to share, and it's a good topic to talk about, because somebody might be listening who's never really discovered how to substitute a good thought for all the negative ones that we all are inclined to do. For some reason, just the human consciousness likes to go over and over like negative things.
I remember when I was first learning about this, I was thinking, well, I wonder if it has to do with the sound, and that it's just audio, and can you just say anything? So I used to chant, I want a hamburger, I want a hamburger, I want a hamburger, I want a hamburger.
It doesn't work so well.
And I found that it wasn't quite as successful as other things, because there's power in what you're saying for sure. But I'd say you're pretty good at this. You've been good at this ever since I've known you, and you're successful at it in your ability to calm yourself and get centered and not get your emotions to run away with you and get pissed off about things.
Well, I had some good teachers, that's for sure. So one of the things that my spiritual teacher, the same one who gave me the mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, made very clear is that this mind of ours, which is sometimes called the monkey mind, when it's misbehaving, when it's just saying all sorts of nasty, negative, downer things, is it by nature wants to think. And so by giving a mantra to our ever curious and ever busy mind, we're giving it what she called a banana. You give a banana to the mischievous monkey mind, and the banana is sweet and it feels good to munch on. So when you have a positive mantra, whether it's something that is given to you by a special event or a teacher or an initiation or investigation, or however you come to this special set of words or sounds or meaning, that's yours. It rings your bell. It resonates with you. Carter's is different than mine. And Carter's wouldn't work for me, and mine doesn't work for him. We've experimented with that.
There is an aspect of patience involved, because you just have to go slow and trust and go easy, and then you get the benefit of it.
Very much patience, because if somebody wanted a quick fix with an unruly mind, they would reach for drugs or alcohol. They would reach for tranquilizers or anti-anxiety or whatever they're called. There's so many of them these days. And that's what mostly conventional doctors do. They prescribe medication. They don't say, go and learn some positive mantras. That's not what a traditional shrink would say. That would take an enlightened person to say that.
Yeah, we have a friend who's has been having trouble with that, and he's going through, and so he's been going to some therapy. Well, he found a real good therapist type person and he's making a lot of progress, and basically she's helping him to get out of his mind, all the thinking about his own stuff to the detriment of his serenity, and having him think about why and how's this happening and why is this manifesting, and thinking about it from a dispassionate point of view, from a witness point of view. And he's getting a way better perspective and getting some tools so that he can not be worrying about crap all the time.
And that takes patience too. To sign on to a therapist means that, you're willing to invest your time, your energy, your effort, and your checkbook to working with somebody who could be a helper, a guide, a mentor, whatever, a teacher. And that's a commitment of patience. And
slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, and the endurance part of that is not giving up. You know, like let's say that person is having therapy now for X amount of weeks or months, and okay, they had a taste of some relief, but now they really want the big jackpot of, you know, whatever happiness means to them, and they're not getting it. So if they decide to continue with this endeavor, that's practicing endurance.
Yeah, and this recent internet thing and the phones and all the electronics that are coming at us really go opposite to that whole thing, because they feed into the distraction that the monkey mind and the nonstop thinking is. It's kind of distracting, and it's built to consume your thinking and keep you away from any real peace. And
definitely,
and we're all subject to it. I mean, there's a lot of positive things and good things about the phone, and us able to get information and run around and do a lot of stuff that used to take us a lot longer. It's more efficient. But paying attention to what it's doing to me, myself, is, you know, you gotta be, I have to pay attention, because otherwise it'll just run away with me. I'll spend the whole damn day sitting there, you know, answering emails and tapes and then
So,
God forbid you should get on the Instagram or the YouTube. And
so what do you do, Carter, when you feel there's a little voice inside of you saying, "Oh, what am I doing? What am I wasting all these hours for?"
Well,
what do you do?
Well, I have to stop. You just have to stop and put it down. But, you know, I could do better at stopping and putting it down. And
Do you think it's an addiction?
I think it has great tendencies to be addictive. Damn right I do. Especially, you know, filmmaker type like me who likes YouTubes, and I'm making YouTubes and have YouTubes, and so I'm on the YouTube, and the minute, you know, a little 30-second Seinfeld clip comes on and it's funny, and then so
you can't help
that's
yourself.
Good. Well, there it is, and and then right after that one, there's another one, and there's another one. The next thing you know, 10 minutes has gone by, and it's the same thing on the Instagram. And happily, I'm not on Facebook, but I am on Instagram, and I don't use it much. But it's the same thing. There's just no into it, and they're all kind of interesting because they're short.
Well, that's not the endurance that we're talking about today. What we're talking about basically is elevating our consciousness to a place of happiness, fulfillment, contentment, feeling useful,
and beingness,
and really feeling, you know, good about ourselves, not about just how many videos can we see in a day. So if anybody's listening, don't think that we're talking about the endurance of how many YouTube videos can I see in an hour.
I'm sure that every other person has the same exact
it's very
feeling
addictive.
that I do. Is that
it's
if
very
you spend 20 minutes watching a bunch of videos, you're just left feeling dead when you're through, and that you just wasted your time.
It's very addictive, and it's a part of our society that has to be addressed by not just parents who have kids, but here we are. Both of us are grown-ups, and we're not kids, and we don't have parents, but we're talking to each other because the addiction is very attractive to everybody.
Yeah,
everybody in this day and age.
Yeah, well, it feeds right into that whole never-ending talking monkey mind thing, and the unruly mind thing that just kind of runs, and it sucks up our energy, and it takes away the peace and quietness.
I just had a thought I wanted to share. Like, so many people, we call the internet the information highway. So many people are so opinionated. Everybody thinks they really have the scoop because they have access to the internet. They can look things up. And I was just thinking, like, that's got a lot to do with this addictive behavior. And what my thought is really is, what's wrong with not knowing everything? What's wrong with just being okay about, there are some things in life that I don't have to know about because there's too much to know for just one human brain to take in everything that's available. And so what I'm practicing these days about the patience and endurance and really trying to strive for being a better, happier, more fulfilled person is being content with not knowing everything. It's really okay.
Oh my God.
I really think about that quite a bit. Why? Do you think that's funny?
I think it's funny.
You do?
Yeah,
But-
I can
but-
just hear my friends say, if I said something like that, they said, well, you've been doing that your whole damn life. Is it?
You've made an art of not knowing
Dumbass, you've
anything.
never known anything. I can just hear them now.
But actually, it's good to have contentment
Ignorance
with.
is bliss.
Well, or also not to put ourselves down that we have to know everything. We have to know every single celebrity's, toenail clipping.
But one thing that's true, one thing that I know is true, and that is that there's happiness and calmness in peace and not a lot of confusion. The less intense things can be, there's a huge benefit of serenity and in that peace and happiness if one can enter into that sphere. And so for sure one of the things that keeps us from that is just never-ending busyness. And it's it's like not being, you're either in the future or in the past, and but if we can get on the now, like old Eckhart Tolle says, then we're just going to be the witness and sit back and watch and just be there. That's a big goal, and that's real happiness and worthwhile. So, and then the other thing is, one other thing, and then I'll pass it over, is that in this society, there's a lot of stuff coming at us, especially from the movie industry, of kind of perverse, ugly, mean, torturous, hateful, cruel things that happen in these movie things as these producers try to push the envelope and try to get attention. But that stuff goes into our brain and into our mind, and it affects us negatively. So one of the things, if I'm able to successfully slow my mind down and stop thinking, then when the time comes back where I'm re-entering a consciousness and things are coming back into my consciousness, then it's my job to put in good things, wonderful things, nice things, kind things, uplifting things, highly moral things. And if I do that, I've noticed that I feel better. Instead of coming back and thinking that's SOB and getting mad about something that happened 20 years ago or something going on in the political now that somebody said and I've got an opinion and they got a different and everybody's angry. Instead of just bringing back beauty and good thinking, then you feel better. So that's one really good way that I've discovered of how to feel better, is to work to do the things that make me feel better. So what about you? What do you do?
Well, as you were talking, I was flashing on what I know for me is true, that when my mind is centered on something that is uplifting, like my mantra, or some other interesting thought, not a gross thought, not a put-down thought, not a scary thought, I truly believe that cellularly, all the different parts of our bodies, our cells, our nervous system, our blood, our lymph fluids, everything is in interdependence. Everything is vibrating with a resonance. And I really think it all begins with what we have in our central headquarters, the big brain, which is our mind. And I feel very in tune with health when I have pleasant thoughts. And when I have unpleasant thoughts, of course, that can even manifest in physical pain. It could manifest in stomach aches, headaches,
well, I think
a
they've pretty
general
much
malaise.
proven that
they've proven
cancer,
this.
resentment brings cancer into your body.
I don't know if they've proven it, but it's been talked about a lot, and I know that.
I'd say it's proven.
You think so?
Well,
well, for you, it's been proven because you've
you've
had a couple bouts with cancer. You've had melanoma twice.
Yeah.
You've had to have it cut out. You've had various and sundries little skin things.
Yeah,
Share with our friends
I've spent time
about
changing
your
my diet.
belief that there is a connection between what is in your mind and the fact that cancer manifested in your body.
Well, I don't know if I can go that far and pinpoint it like that, but I'm just saying that...
Well, you say it's been proven, so how do you know it's been proven? Is it a test that you've read about, research, or is it just your own experience in life?
It's my own research into people that have successfully overcome cancers, and B, the general, just general literature on how to be healthier. It has a lot to do with the way you think about things and the way you think and treat other people. So
it doesn't have something. Wait a minute. It seems to me that in the past we've talked a lot about the importance of resentment. It's not just about thinking. It's really gets so specific in the metaphysical world, at least, that resentments cause cancer. Just the way that the medical world has proven that sugar activates cancer cells.
Yeah.
So, what about that? That you've never.
I don't know if it's empirically been proven. I'm probably out of line by saying something like that.
Well, let's just talk about your own life then, okay? For yourself, you have proven to yourself. Maybe it has not yet been written down as an official AMA-approved research test, but you have dealt with this concept ever since you were first diagnosed, and you've had a couple of different rounds, with
yeah. Well, I remember when
disease.
I first started studying the prostate cancer, and I got it. I sent away for this thing to the Casey people who are. He's had huge successes in helping that, and one of the sections at the end was, what's your ideal, and are you working to your ideal, and are you acting in a way that is commensurate with what you want to be and what you've made up your mind in advance of how you want to treat other people. And I said, what the hell is this doing in here? Somebody must have slipped this in by mistake.
Oh, you thought it was an accident.
And then I found
and you didn't
out
even know what an ideal was at that
No,
point.
I didn't. I said, what the
We said ideal? What does that mean?
I had to start working on it. It wasn't so easy to figure out what an ideal was, but an ideal might be, an example of an ideal might be that no matter what you want to, you'd want to have an ideal to be kind in every situation, no matter what. That might be an ideal, for instance,
or to practice patience,
or to be. Yeah, your ideal would be to anytime you felt depressed or down in the dumps and was losing your faith, that you would immediately stop and get and become reinvigorated with the idea that faith is something that you can't put your hands on, but it's there and it's real and it benefits everyone.
So wait a minute, the ideal is a concept. It's not just an idea, it's an ideal that we want to have our lives working toward.
Yeah.
Like a goal. It's like a spiritual goal.
You want to act, for instance, the same way that Jesus would act in whatever situation you find yourself in, that your ideal would be to act in a Christ-like manner, not necessarily to be Jesus, but to be in that consciousness. Mm-hmm. Approach all of life with that consciousness. That would be an ideal. Mm-hmm. So that was part of this whole thing about the curing the prostate cancer, and I mean, I guess there is probably no empirical evidence about it, but
wait a minute, Carter, you're glossing over the fact, because I was there with you. We've been together for 30-something years. When you got this information, I was there with you, and I said, hey, Carter, we should find out how to discover what the ideal is. So we did a little more like research, and they actually give step-by-step instructions about how to think about your mental life, your physical life, your spiritual life, and investigate what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you excited, and out of that investigation you come up with an ideal. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, and we actually did it. It was an exercise.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just something you read. We wanted to, together as a team, we wanted to get you into health. We did not want cancer to take over your body. So we did the exercise. And Don't you think that
Still alive.
And you're also still working with ideals. It has changed here and there. You're not articulating this idea very well. That's why I'm helping you a little bit. You don't just read about something, but you actually say, "Oh,
this is what my ideal of as a person is.
This is going to help my life. This may save my life from dying of cancer." Right. So we did the work, and we've been working with ideals ever since then. You have your ideal. I have my ideal.
An ideal might be to have no resentment towards anybody for anything.
That's a big one.
That would be an ideal.
How you doing with that?
How am I doing? I'm doing good, except with a couple of people I can think of right now.
Hi, teZa.
I'm good, except for them. I remember you asked me that time.
Okay, and so also, besides the ideal thing, of course, they talk about diet. You have to alkaline yourself. We're talking about, how to eradicate the threat of cancer. And they talk a lot about not having sugar and not doing red meat, all these dietary things. But a lot of it has to do with where your mind is at. And that takes a lot of patience to even explore that. Because a lot of people, they just want to take pills, or they want to go to a therapist and have the therapist lead the way. But when we ourselves just sit down and say, wow, I am in control of my life. I can become happier, or I can become healthier. And I might even be able to get out of this cancer growing mode and be in a more balanced, healthy situation. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And that took patience.
Yeah. Took patience, and sometimes you need help with that if you're sick. Like our daughter was sick with Lyme disease, and we've known a lot of people. He
says my because I'm the stepmom. He always says my daughter.
We know a lot of people that have Lyme disease, and they have to have a long-term daily plan, and they get tired, and they get feeling lousy, and they get sick, and sometimes it hurts them and doesn't feel good. And it's easy if you don't have somebody helping you. Man, that's a hard road, because it takes years to get off of that, and you just get discouraged. And you're up and down.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to have somebody in with you on that.
When you have a health challenge, it's very, very important to have patience.
And endurance, you have to have they have to be in for the long haul.
Yeah, because it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, conditions don't happen to the body overnight, and they certainly don't get cured overnight. It is a commitment. And it's nice to have friends or family or guides or, mentors to help guide us, because sometimes we lose our way or we get discouraged. So we just want to encourage everybody to think about patience and endure whatever comes up when you make a decision to, whatever it is about your body, mind, or spirit, part of your life. Once you make up your mind, you will be tested. There will be times in that commitment where you say, oh man, I just want to give up. That's happened to me recently. I chewed off a really big project. I was right in the middle of it, and I said, oh, I can't do this. It's too complicated. And I thought, oh, okay, just give it a little time. Just keep going and just see how it goes. And so I did a few more investigations, and I finally realized I need help. I really can't go any further unless I have help. And to get to that place, I had to go through the steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, before I get to number 8, which was like help. So I did, fortunately, ask the right person for help, and that person is now helping me. And
so that'll be great.
Yeah, so sometimes we just need to get to a place where we realize that we can't do it all ourselves. We need a tribe. We need, just support. Besides our own inner strength. So thanks for being my support, Carter.
Okay, baby. Thanks for being with me, too.
Yeah, and I just got to tell you, folks, this river, I've been watching the dragonflies while Carter's been talking. And there's this one little spot, we're getting ready to go for a swim, where the dragonfly is always a light on his forehead when we go past this one place. And I realize after watching that one place, it's because it's territorial. there's like a territorial discussion going on between the dragonflies when another bug or something comes in the territory of one or two dragonflies. They kind of have it out for each other, right in the middle of our pathway.
They're not thinking about the other guy. And when they're not paying attention, sometimes the fish jumps up and grabs them when they're not paying attention. So
or
they're
frog.
paying the price for thinking about themselves.
I think
all
frogs
the time.
have a thing for
That's a big
dragonflies
thing.
too.
That's a big part of things, is to keeping our ego out of it as much as we can. It's a lifetime process to try to do that, and I find.
Perhaps we can share a little bit of the beauty, not only going on inside of our hearts and our minds, but in this actual physical place with you, because it is such a beautiful privilege, too, to see so much nature unobstructed. Just it's so serene. So with that peace
All right.
and that beauty and love,
All right.
Om Namah Shivaya.
All right.
Until next time.